So this time we're going to have a debate, still on the same topic of wealth inequality. There are those who believe in the freedom to create wealth, and there are those whose preference is to redistribute wealth. So I have 5 questions, which I may ask again, but anyway, it's like, so why are some countries poor and other countries rich? Why are some people rich and others poor? Who creates wealth? Who creates poverty? What is the solution to wealth inequality? So Shannon, could you start, keeping in mind the first question, like why are some countries poor and other countries rich?
They don't produce enough, like, because the economy, the scales is messed up. Like we have these poorer countries producing all this stuff for rich first world countries like America, but they're taking the fruits of the labour from the poor countries, and the poor countries don't get it. Like, think about even like a factory worker in China. They're making expensive iPhones, right? But can they afford the product that you're making? They can't. They're not getting the fruits of their labour. Their wages are so much lower that they take them so much longer to save up to afford that iPhone that the American teenage girl gets for her 12th birthday, sort of thing, you know? Like, it's this sort of, these rich companies that can take advantage of these poorer nations and pay them less and work them harder and use their cheaper labour and take advantage of that, which reduces their costs, so they can sell their products at a cheaper price or at a higher profit margin.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, that's good.
For that
That's
profound
really-
introductory
really
statement.
good,
And Andrew?
Look, and Sharon, what you've said, you know, it can't be questioned. That is the way that human beings have behaved in eternity. You have the powerful people, the people who, whether it's better intelligence or better prowess and strength to force other people to do their will. I have to say that I am a lot more optimistic about the future with the sharing of knowledge. Previously, people were exempt from going into certain industries because they didn't know how to do it. Now knowledge is everywhere, and we're actually seeing now this transition. So I am optimistic this will change. What I think we have to learn is the rules of the game, okay? And we're still a long way away from those rules of the game. I think the majority of human beings on this planet, given the same circumstances, we all want the basic needs. We want to enjoy our family time. We want to, you know, just basically enjoy the pleasures of being alive. However, when you are, you know, you have certain individual groups who, for whatever reason, and I don't understand it, you know, we talk about, you know, the corporate powerhouses or certain individuals who just want more and more and more wealth just for the sake of it. Those organisations need to be controlled to allow this bringing together. And as we're seeing, third world countries, the gap between third world countries, and the living standards of average people are getting closer.
Yeah, so it's about bringing it more to like a...
Yeah. But it's the rules of the game.
Yeah.
It's the rules of the game which we are still a long way away from having, and still allowing those most powerful individuals to rule the way it's done for everybody else.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. And Greg, what's your attitude or your opinion on this topic?
Well, to me it's quite obvious. It all comes back to why is one country better off than another. It all comes back to natural resources and the handling of those natural resources. I'll bring your attention to our mineral wealth, for example. I'm talking about Australia. Our mineral wealth is unlimited with regards to steel, coal. We've got the energy to keep the power stations going, and we have the climate, which is a great diversity in our world is our climate. We go from the snow in the south to the beautiful warmth of the north, and with a balance of basically tourism. People want to come to our country to enjoy our balance of life, and this is so relevant to our natural resources. And I bring your attention back some years ago to the world economic downturn, and it was asked of our Prime Minister of the time, why has Australia succeeded through this economic downturn where so many other countries throughout the world are falling apart with regards to employment, etc., and poverty. And our wise Prime Minister at the time, she said, natural resources. We have the determination, the love, the strength, and the understanding of our country to move forward through these bad times.
Well done, well spoken. Look, I'd have to say, look, it was really good to hear someone get back on topic, you know, like some of these people went off topic to start with, went back on topic about why are some countries rich and some countries poor. And that was the original question. I didn't hear that from the first two speakers, unfortunately, but I'm glad, Greg, you actually managed to do that to start with. You know, the answer, of course, is obvious. You know, some countries get off their backsides and do something, you know, like have some entrepreneurial skills, get out there and take some risks. And those risks, yep, some of them, as Greg said, can be, you know, natural resources. Some of them can be tourism, in which countries get out and say, come and have a look at us. We're a really smart country. You know, Paul Hogan was really classic. Paul Hogan did an advertisement for the Australian economy about come and visit Australia. That, you know, put that shrimp on the barbie. Did a huge success. Now this guy was really smart. He was a great entrepreneur. He didn't charge for that ad. And the company's like going to get Paul Hogan, the biggest name at the time, not charge. And he said, no, this is my act, my free thing to the service. Of course, self-interest, of course. He then made a movie about 2 years later called Crocodile Dundee and used the fact that everyone had seen him on the commercial.
Okay.
So the whole thing is about having that initiative. And if every country had that initiative and used the economies of scale, and most economic people would agree with me that if every country used their economies of scale and used it to the best of their ability, then every country would be better off. Some countries just need to do that.
Yes.
And I'd like to add to that before we go across to the audience over here. When you do a comparison between the rich and the poor, you know, a comparison between rich countries and poor countries, look at the structure that's there. Because people look at the content. These people are poor and these are rich. Greedy rich people. No, look at the actual structure that's actually in place. And look at the institutions that they actually have. And you'll find the big major distinction between rich countries and poor countries are the institutions which have been built upon a structure which is based upon a value system. Values, and you'll find that some values motivate us one way or another, yeah? Motivate or demotivate. And so you've got to look at what the value system is of those cultures, of those societies, of those countries. Yeah? Because I want to say something which is very unpolitically correct, all cultures are not equal. All societies are not equal, all value systems are not equal. Those people are the high achievers, whether it's the Olympics, or whether it's in business, or whether it's in relationships, they have different value systems. The value system will get you your outcome, yeah? And the whole thing about natural resources, once again, it's this greed. You get these greedy countries stealing natural resources from poor countries. Well, you look at Africa has had massive wealth there for millions of years. An Arab intellectual stated that Egypt, or what it was, the Middle East, has all the oil there for millions of years. They didn't do anything with it until the British come along. The British pumped it up, refined it, and then sold it to the Arabs. And then the Germans built the Mercedes-Benz and sold it to the Arabs. And this Arab intellectual on Memory TV said, well, we didn't really do anything. You know, we relied upon the West to do it. And he said our value system didn't support that. And so it comes back to what Barry was saying, initiative, right? So now I'd like to pass it across to the audience for your comments.
It's good to see that you agree with us.
Well, on that note, I'd like to have something to say, and that is that there's been a long history of certainly England and America, Europe, plundering poor countries. So they've gone in and taken the wealth. So that certainly happened. The East India Company did that in India. But in modern days, it's very often been the Americans. I'd urge you to have a look at on YouTube a man who did some videos, and it's called the Economic Hitman. And his job was to go into some of the poorer countries and to convince the governments to be corrupted by mining companies. And if they weren't convinced by him, then the I think it was the CIA would come in and just kill the president and install their own people so that they could plunder the wealth of the countries, the mineral resources. So, I would say that there's been a long history of something like that going on. It started with the British Empire, and it's still happening today.
It's a system which has been used by a number of religions too.
Yeah.
So you can change the same system, just change the content.
Content. Yeah.
Right. So, Des, do you have something to say?
Oh, I know rich countries seem to get ahead because the governments do better in the West. The governments put more money into building roads, your taxes or whatever. See, with say Bali or Indonesia, there it's pretty poor, and the government doesn't fix up the roads or there's big potholes. And you're walking down the street, on the footpath, and you got to watch this big hole that you don't fall in it. So I've been over in these countries, and it's pretty bad that the government doesn't put money back into it.
Yeah.
Australia, they put money back into it. They
Yeah.
probably don't do the right thing all the time with the taxes, but at least they put money back into the society.
That goes back to what I was saying about the structure and the institutions.
Yeah.
So, for example, what happens in
Yeah.
Africa a lot, they actually have the money, they dig up the gold or whatever,
Yeah.
but then the politicians put it away into their Swiss bank account. It doesn't go back into
It doesn't go back into the society.
system. Whereas at least in
system,
the West,
Yeah.
they dig up the gold, they may dig it
Yeah.
up from somebody else's country,
Yeah.
but it has to be run through government, through the institutions, so it
Yeah.
actually cycles through, and that's how the wealth is actually created. Because
Yeah. Yeah, so it's
Doesn't that come back to what I was saying about the rules of the game have to change?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is the problem. But look here, I've written down some things here. If it's just about having resources that makes you a rich country, please explain Singapore to me. Philippines, most beautiful natured people on this planet,
Yeah.
the poorest nation on the planet. Why? Exploitation, whether it's from their own Imelda Marcos or whether it's Western influence and all the rest of it. You mentioned Africa. The warlords are making the rules over there, and the majority, the masses, pay the price, all as a result of British self-interest. Communism starts off. Africa, the whole life.
we have to take the NLP meta model,
I say British,
universal quantifier, or always challenge.
Okay, Western society. Okay, the De Beers company with the diamond cartels and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Communism that led to dictatorship. Okay, because the rules were not followed and nobody was keeping them accountable. You end up with a dictatorship. It's got to come back to the rule book, and there has to be accountability there.
And then we go to
And I don't have the
then we go to
answer
who sets the rules.
Jeez.
Who set the rules?
Who is going to write the rules?
At the end of the day, as they say in A Bug's Life, it's the majority. It's the majority rules, but the majority have to speak up. For the real, I turn around and say, hang on, the realisation is you need me more than I need you.
But then we come back. Then we come back to intelligence, right? You've got to write rules. You go to the majority. Are the majority intelligent? Who are those people who've got the intelligence or the wisdom to be able to write a fair set of rules?
I just want to comment on what Andrew's been talking about, because this was a great history lesson with Imelda Marcos. I mean, that was like I was a child, I think, when that occurred, so I don't know why that example is relevant for today.
Because it was corruption from within.
Again, a history lesson, we could go back to history. Look, the
Don't worry about that.
the core aspect, of course, associated, which
Give us a
our
long
learned
version.
host alluded to, and we've really got to get the key to this, is one of the key factors that comes in has been the advent of religion. And the advent of religion has caused this whole thing about, we're only going to get to heaven if we're poor. And the poor countries out there are the ones that are the most religious based. So it creates this whole poverty consciousness. The wealthy countries, if we stay on the topic, the wealthy countries, those who do well, can supersede religion. We can sort of have it there in the background and be really nice to it. We can supersede that and have create our own wealth.
Barry, which religion are you referring to?
Well, there's 2,000 or so religions.
They all have the same basis.
Hang on, universal quantifier.
They all
All
have
have the same basis.
they all have a very similar base. Let's take Christianity, for example. The world perception is that Jesus walked around with a robe and a pair of sandals and was not a rich person. And yet, am I right in presuming that right from the moment he was born, he had gold, frankincense and myrrh given to him?
Yeah, he was a capitalist. You're actually arguing our point that
What I'm saying is the stories are manipulated for the means, and it still comes back to that 1% or whatever that percentage is that uses and corrupts stories and culture to say, as you say in the example of the Philippines, yeah, we're good Catholic people, we are not good, we just take what we need, and that is exploited by...
Hang on, I'm lost. What was my question?
What Catholic?
The question, the original question is
Which religion? Yeah, because
look, that's a really good
the
question.
mind read there.
However,
So which religion? So you're referring to?
well, that's a really good question. Just before I answer that, though, let me say this.
Very clever. 5 points.
That it's amazing that we can get men on the moon, but we can't agree on what we're talking about. That's all I've got to say.
And so the point is about class. I'm using the NLP method model, yeah, because it says religion. I mind read which religion is it referring to, and all religions. Well, and then it went like that. And it's like, well, which religion are we referring to? And I think we would find that it's always referring to Christianity.
No, it's not good. I think it's only referring to Catholics' religion.
Oh, okay, but the Catholics, yeah.
Catholics.
And then we have a look, and then we go like this, because what's happened is like Christianity has been demonized over the last, I don't know, 50 years or something or other. And yet you look at the success of the West, all right? You look at the success of the world, right? We look at this, and we look at the structure. We look at the institutions. We look at the value system. We look at each and every person in this room is fed, watered, dry, safe. We know we can go home to our families, homes, loved ones, etc. Yeah? This is all built upon values which actually came from Christianity. So Christianity went through a period of, 1,500 years, where people were really getting they were coming out of being tribal, and they're getting their heads knocked around like this, and they come out of the Dark Ages, and then we get that science thing, and then people are going, wow, wow. But now people are denigrating the West rather than actually having a sense of gratitude and acknowledgement for where we came from. That's where we came from. It's Christian values have actually brought us to where we are, whether you're a Christian or not. All right, besides the point.
Look, I'm very grateful that my forebears and my ancestors conquered this country, because I wouldn't be living here otherwise. And I don't know if that's what you're talking about with Christian values, but the values of Christianity has been to proselytise and to conquer. And we all reap the benefit of that. I don't know if you're not happy with that. We can all go back to England.
Let's put that aside, all right? Let's put that aside. What actually came out of Christianity, got 30 seconds, is the willingness to sacrifice now for rewards later. So we sacrifice. We work our butt off all week, so on the weekend we might be able to go to the beach. Or we work for 10 years with the hope that we might be able to build a business for ourselves and then leave something for our children.
Yeah.
Sacrifice. Those people who are willing to sacrifice are those ones who build businesses, create sites and all that sort of stuff. Those people who live in the moment do not actually create anything.
Have the sacrifices been even at all levels? Were the sacrifices made by the fellow who went down the mine for 12 hours a day the same as the man who sat up at the top counting the money?
You're actually, I don't know what the term for that is, whether it's a hyperbole or something or other.
There's a lot of sacrifice.
But come back to personal sacrifice. When you get up and you work your butt off. You go up to Brisbane, yeah? You work 2 o'clock for those people on a gig, yeah? And you don't get paid. Yeah? But Shannon went because he wanted to go. Because he knows that somehow he's going to get rewarded for that down the track.
The Protestant work ethic.
Well, even before the Protestant work ethic, it was there with the Catholicism.
Right.
And we do that. We sacrifice. See, and it's a value system built upon that. And then you could look at those poor guys down there. That's just like, it's besides the point. It's just like we're here because we can sacrifice. And all our institutions are built upon that. And so our families, our parents built a life for us because they wanted something better for us. And then those who are really good at it, the families get better and better like this. But now we're getting, but you're entitled, you have privilege, you've got more money, and then it's just like slam it down.
Surely that's because they see that there are greater sacrifices made by some than others.
There's an unequal reward.
Really?
Absolutely.
Sacrifice.
And since we're running out of time, I'd like to acknowledge the adjudicator for obviously seeing that even the host is supporting our argument. Thank you.
Graceful behaviour by the host. Graceful. I apologise for going off subject.
We got to cut. Okay, cut. And remember to keep on challenging everything for the truth. I've spent my entire life doing that and would like to share some of my discoveries with you. Whether you're an atheist or believe in a higher power, my book on God is sure to get you thinking. And part and parcel of spirituality is learning how to work with your unconscious mind, such that you can quieten the mind and get yourself to sleep when you need to. And that includes the ability to banish bad habits like cigarettes, marijuana, alcohol, chocolate, and overeating. And as a foundation to a fulfilling life, I believe everyone needs to learn how to work with their unconscious mind, how to explore deep trance and states of deep meditation. If you want to connect, you can find me on Facebook at Abbey Eagle School of Meditation.